call Shane Arden.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It's a pleasure to rise and speak on the Biosecurity Law Reform Bill. The Primary Production Select Committee, as already has been mentioned by the Minister and the opposition spokesman Damien O'Connor, received 41 submissions and heard from 27 of them. And a lot of the concerns, I think, that the member has alluded to were addressed. In fact, the Select Committee made 9 substantive alterations or recommendations to government, which have been accepted. So I'm interested in where the member's heading with his comments about what may still be out there that's unattended to, and we'll watch with some interest as to which way the Labor whips intend to go in regard to which bills they'll support and which ones they won't. And we'll watch that space with interest. The big bits of change, I guess, or substantive bits of change that are worth mentioning are the fact that for the first time, Mr Speaker, the concept of a government-industry agreement between the stakeholders and the state in regard to how to best address biosecurity incursions was introduced into this legislation, and the Select Committee had some reservations about that and considered that fully, discussed widely with those that submitted. And it was an interesting concept that on one side the small industry players such as the kiwi fruit industry, which you've recently seen had a major incursion with the PSA and had experience, were actually more receptive to the notion of having a predetermined agreement with the state about who pays and what happens and who holds the IP, as it were, in regard to addressing a particular issue and who is likely to have the biggest stake in the debate. They were more receptive to it than perhaps some of the more older traditional industries such as dairy and meat and wool were. And I guess you can understand the concern that exists out there, Mr Speaker, between the stakeholders in this debate. On one side, you could argue that the government was backing away from its traditional position, or the state should fund. And on the other side, you could argue that those that actually know how to respond best and have the ability to be able to advise need to be at the table, and they need to not only just be there in terms of discussion but also in terms of funding. So there is an element of a debate still going on there, and very pleased to hear that the Minister came out and said the bottom seal, I guess, if you like, to who pays what would be 50%, and negotiations go from 50% up as far as the state is involved in the incursion, whatever it might be. The second issue, which I am very pleased to see is introduced in this bill for the first time, is the ability for a neighbour to be a neighbour regardless of whether that neighbour is the state or anyone else, and the clarity around who that is, adjacent or nearby, and the words and quote marks around those and the significance of those and the case law that goes with that. That was a major step forward, Mr Speaker. Up until now, there has been one set of rules for the state being whatever piece of Crown land it might be, whether it be Department of Conservation, school land, railway reserves, whatever, and a private landowner. And the private landowner had to meet a far higher standard in regard to pest management and weed control and any other potential biosecurity breach than what the state did. And that was unfair. It always has been unfair, Mr Speaker. Obviously, we weren't wanting to reach a position where we put undue costs or unnecessary costs on the taxpayer, but we wanted fairness, and I think the position that the committee reached and the recommendation has been accepted was a fair and just one, and I think that's a step forward for us. So I'll be interested to listen to the debate as it goes through the House, Mr Speaker, find out what it is that's concerning the opposition, what new material may have come to light since the Select Committee finally reached its position and deliberated on this bill and reported back to the House, and look forward to the passage of this bill through the House, Mr Speaker.